Right. So in this video, we are discussing about the Azure AI services because artificial intelligence, whenever we are working on the real world, imparting artificial intelligence by also implementing machine learning is becoming essentially important for any of the projects nowadays. In this regard, implementing different artificial intelligence tools, something like TensorFlow, even we can use Seaborn, right? So this is all for used for data visualization purpose library. Even Seaborn can be used. At the same time, for programming, we can go for Python. So all these are the tools, different tools we require. Even Amazon SageMaker, whenever we are moving on to AWS side, right? So Amazon Web Services, we have a tool called Amazon SageMaker. So SageMaker, these are the different tools which are used majorly for us to manage whatever the artificial intelligence services we require to create. So in this regard, whenever we have identified where whenever we wants to work on Azure platform, Microsoft Azure platform, Windows Azure platform of the cloud service. So one of the cloud service wherein we can use is called AI, which is for artificial intelligence services, we can use it. So in this artificial intelligence services, if you want to use any, if you want to open any kind of artificial intelligence account, wherein here we can see. So we have an option where we can create different tasks in context to the artificial intelligence, wherein we can create in this. So provided, so if you want to use these services, whatever I'm explaining to you, these are all the paid services even, because depends on our requirement, whatever the services are we going to use. So that will be used only that, right? So we don't use all the services because unless until as far as the training purpose is concerned, I'm talking about from the training context. Using the services maximum to an extent which are free is what something which normally I focus more on. So because paid services in the real world, how this can be used and all everything will be guided equally. So whatever the service we require, because especially in the cloud environment, we have an advantage. Whatever the services are required for us, whatever the services are needed for us, so we'll be using only those as paid services. Otherwise, most of the services, as far as the training is concerned, generally the free services will be used. Even being a learner, whenever you are working on this AI services in Azure platform, so you need to get some hands-on exposure. I don't say experience, but exposure is required. So to apply for opportunities, all that. In this regard, these are all will be sufficient for you, right? So even to create and open Azure account, right? So that is also required. At the same time, if you want to create any kind of APIs, right? So because face APIs and all everything, this is not something we use it extensively, especially for AI. When where it is needed only, face API is being used. Otherwise, we don't use it. So, but opening an account, Azure opening an account can be used. Then we do that also. Next, document intelligence, because this is also one of the key and important service we use it. Because whatever the documents are we going to create, right? So in context to the applications we are going to develop. So what are the documents are we having, right? So to turn these documents into the usable data, different documents in different formats we have. So I'm talking about project documentation, technical documentation, etc. So these things has to be transformed into the usable data format so that it is always useful for us to use it when and wherever it is needed when we are working on the projects, especially on artificial intelligence projects I'm talking about. So when we are going to create any artificial intelligence project we are creating, because as in when I'm going to give the training program, so some exposure to have some exposure and some artificial intelligence project will be taken. In this regard, so how this document intelligence is and how this can be turned into, because especially for the context of role as a business analyst, whenever we are working as a business analyst, we create documents, multiple documents will be created. So whatever the documents for requirement purpose, going to prepare and all everything, that we have to be turned into a usable format, especially when we are working on artificial intelligence part. So document intelligence is also one of the service we can enable for, especially for people who are moving towards business analyst side, all that, right? So these people, it is majorly useful. I don't say that it is not required for other people, but majorly it is majorly used for those people so that to have a better idea over that. One of the service we use is called boat services, because this is where generally it's called auto boats, right? So because normally there is a concept called RPA. Hope you might have known about the concept of RPA, which is called robotic process automation. Using robotic process automation, we can automate the processes without any human intervention, even using the boards, even software boards and all. So we can uh, recreate the services and we can use it again and again, because there are some processes wherein we want to use it again and again, so that even though for that reason we don't require any human support, right? So you don't need any human support all the time. So without human intervention, we can create boards so that the same process can be continued once and again. So for that, there are different tools in RPA we use, something like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, OpenSpan, Blue Prism, right? So different RPA tools normally we use, because people who are working on automation projects will have an idea. So that in general we use it, but not in context to the Azure part we have. So we have those tools as separate for RPA, right? So somebody will be using Automation Anywhere, right? Somebody uses OpenSpan, Blue Prism, somebody uses UiPath, right? So all those, they'll be using those tools according to the industry as well as their organization, company needs, etc. But here we can create boards, especially when we are working on artificial intelligence projects, especially in Azure platform. We can create different boards and all, so that we can connect these boards to different channels. So this is also one of the key and important service I can suggest, right? So when we are working on the projects, so both services can also be used. So this is also one of the service. So it's not only an artificial intelligence project to be created, while even document intelligence is also one of the service. At the same time, both services are also something required. So both services wherein to create multiple boards and all everything, we can do this. Next, after that, the next is about metrics, right? So metrics is also required, because if you want to diagnosis, or if you want to monitor the kind of issues, whatever are we addressed, or monitor the kind of issues what we have identified so far, if you want to monitor these issues, right? So if you want to identify the metrics, or if you want to diagnose the issues and all, so metrics advisory is also one of the service which can be used, so that issues identification. At the same time, if you want to know about the performance of the work, what we are doing, right? So you need to know about the progress of work, performance, health of the work which was done by the team. So if there are any queries were identified and all that, so identifying about those queries and all, right? So this is where generally diagnosis comes into picture. So diagnosis part I'm talking about, right? So diagnosing the defects, so equally whatever and how to rectify those defects and all everything. For that reason, even metrics advisor is also one of the service which can be used when we are working on artificial intelligence projects, right? So in training and in context to the artificial intelligence training, especially when we are working on the training part, whenever we are using Azure. So this is also one of the important service we can use it. Next one about this language understanding, because this is a classic service normally can be used, because different natural language processes we have. So if you want to understand the different natural language processes and all, language understanding classic is also one of the service prominently we use it. We use when we are working on the Azure AI service. So this is also one of the prominent service can be used. This is also something will be there. Next, this is also this I don't say this is final, but this is one of the important service I can suggest you. So detectors and all, right? So for example, if you want to identify any kind of potential problems when you are working on, because those potential problems might impacting on the project what we are working on. So if you want to identify any potential problems what we have identified so far, so that rectification will be done as earliest. So for this regard, it's always important for us to identify those. So for that, this is one of the service. Normally we use it in Azure AI. So these are the services we use in Azure platform. So when we are undergoing any kind of training, or if you want to have some project exposure, if you want to get, I don't say experience, because unless until we don't work for real world, we don't get the experience. But before we are learning something, or at the time of learning, to have some hands-on exposure for any new learner, which is essentially required. In this regard, Azure AI services. So these are the major services which can be used for the people who are new learners, especially in the field of artificial intelligence. Either you may be in a role as a business analyst, or you may be in other roles like a development role, all that. So learning these services is what something which you will be doing in this course. This will give you an additional advantage and opportunity when you're applying for artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning projects. Because in the previous video, I've made some videos on machine learning as well, right? So machine learning data, all that, right? So that part I have created. So at the same time, there are a lot of tools we are using, even Python, PySpark. At the same time, we are using even TensorFlow, right? So these are the different artificial intelligence tools also will be used in the real world to have some real-time exposure, right? So this is all about this video. If you have any questions, if you have any queries in regard to that, as well as any training as well as coaching needs, please reach to the contact details which will be provided in below this video. Thank you.